Masechet Zvachim, and now we are coming into new tractate of Menachot, respectively. Very, very exciting time period, and I think this actually causes a L'chaim that we should have together within regards to that. We haven't had a L'chaim for a while, and very, very nice whiskey over here. So we're just going to do a short L'chaim as we get into the spirit of Masechet Menachot territory over here today on this, as we are commencing really this start of this week. So we're going to taste this, and it's always good to have a small l'chaim. I'm going to say a short blessing within regards to this, and we're going to get underway with the introduction and daf bet of Masechet Menachot. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shakon yeh b'dvaro. Very smooth, very, very smooth, I must say, over here. But we are starting Menachot. So let's give a short introduction. Once again, thanks to the phenomenal notes of Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz, which I very much recommend everyone to read his notes, as we are all learning the daf together over here, and this is going to really commence a period of time. So we know that Masechet Menachot and obviously Zvachim, which we just came out of, let's say, are viewed as brother and sister tractates, you could say. Both of them focus on the rules and the regulations associated with sacrificial services, the korbanot. Although we did see on Masechet Zvachim a dealing with sacrifices brought from living creatures that are slaughtered, let's say animals and fowl, while in Masechet Menachot, which we are now coming inside, it's about sacrifices that originate in the plant world, Menachot, meal offerings brought from grains, wheat and barley, and libations of wine and oil. Obviously, wheat and barley, we are coming into the territory in just under a month's time of Tu B'Shvat. So that's actually very much a connotation. Let's just have another taste over here. Yeah, it is smooth over here. Okay, so just as is the case regarding animal sacrifices, we find a variety of different sacrifices in the general category of Menachot. There are those that are voluntary, those that are obligatory, and those that come, let's say, to effect atonement for transgression. There are those brought by individuals and those brought on behalf of the community. So you can see it's like an encyclopedic, let's just say, conglomeration of various different kinds of korbanot, and who for, what's the science behind it. Let's say there's another parallel to animal sacrifice, is the fact that while some parts are going to be burned on the altar, other parts are given to the Kohanim to eat. And we learned about this also in the tractate of Zvachim that just came out. Nevertheless, there are changes and differences also. For example, all Menachot are considered Kodshei Kodashim, the highest level of holiness, and they can only be eaten by male Kohanim in the Bet HaMikdash courtyard, the temple courtyard, respectively, over there. Now, we see the sacrificial service that we find for the mincha is similar to that of an animal sacrifice. After preparing the meal offering, the Kohen takes a kometz, a fistful, from the mixture. He places it in one of the Bet HaMikdash vessels to sanctify it. He carries it to the altar and burns it on the altar. From that time, the remnants are permitted to the Kohanim to eat. Thus, the four main activities of the mincha, they parallel those of an animal sacrifice. Now, over here, they give a list of an order. Number one, kemitza. What is a kemitza? We should know these terminologies for the coming months where we're learning this. Kemitza is taking the fistful of flour, which parallels over here the shechita, the slaughtering of the animal. The number two, placing the kometz in the Bet HaMikdash temple vessel. What does that parallel? It parallels collecting the blood in a temple vessel. Number three, carrying the kometz to the altar. This, as a code of conduct, parallels carrying the blood to the altar. And finally, burning the kometz on the altar. That is going to parallel sprinkling the blood on the altar. Now, it's interesting. I think it's during these four acts that inappropriate thoughts will disqualify the sacrifice. So intentions is very, very crucial when it comes to korbanot. So thus, the kometz of the meal offering and the blood of the animal sacrifice symbolizes the teshuvah, the atonement offered by this sacrifice, and completing that service allows the rest of the sacrifice to be eaten or brought onto the altar as should be done so. Now, among the differences now, let's say, between these sacrifices, these korbanot, is the fact that an animal sacrifice is ready to be slaughtered and brought to the altar with minimal preparation, while the meal offering, though, must be prepared now from different ingredients, i.e. flour, oil, frankincense. This will all be ready in order to be ready for the sacrifice. Now, however, in reality, let's just say, the first two tractates in Sefer Kodashim, obviously, this is Vachim and the Menachot, which we are now inside, they constitute a single whole dealing with a sacrificial service, inasmuch as each contains elements of ritual law that apply to the other. The latter part, which we're going to learn about as we progress in Masechet Menachot, will appear to be a summation of general rules of sacrifice. It's going to be more, once again, going back to that encyclopedic and dictionary kind of rule of what to do when it comes to korbanot and sacrifices, respectively. Now we know that I think the concluding Mishnah will quote passages that appear regarding animal sacrifices. Obviously, we very much see this in Parshat Vayikra at the start of the book of Vayikra. And meal offerings, which we see also in the second chapter, I think, of Vayikra, they agree that both are offerings desired by God, allowing the Mishnah to close by teaching that it makes no difference whether one offers much or little, so long as he directs his heart to heaven. So we've heard this phrase on various occasions before. The meal offerings can be categorized in a number of different ways. Let's explore these different ways, very much according to this excellent Hakdama of Rabbi Adenstein Seltz. Firstly, according to obligation. The mincha can be voluntary, it can be obligatory, and can be brought to the effect of atonement for sin. Now, also, according to who is bringing it, the mincha can be brought by individuals or on behalf of the community. Also, according to ingredients, the mincha can be brought from wheat or barley. It may contain oil or frankincense, both of them, or maybe neither of them, which is interesting. Now, according to method of preparation, some meal offerings are simply mixtures of flours, while others involve a process of cooking, baking, or frying. So this is another insight. While most meal offerings are baked as matzah, there are some that are allowed to rise and then become chametz. So you can see a difference within regards to how it's going to end up. Most meal offerings are brought on their own, but there are some that are brought together with animal sacrifices. And also, I have to add, most meal offerings have a kometz, a fistful, taken to be burned on the altar. But there are exceptions to this rule as well. Now, it's actually in all, there are 15 different types of menachot. That's what's categorized and illustrated by Robert Adenstein Seltz. 11 are brought by individuals. 3 are brought by the community. And we're going to see there's going to be one libation brought in conjunction with many animal sacrifices. Obviously, you very much see this in Sefer Bamidbar in chapter 15, verses 1 to 16, respectively, over there. I think that's very much, featured in Parshat Shlach, if I'm not mistaken. Now, also, meal offerings brought by individuals. What does that include? The first 5 voluntary menachot, which are enumerated by the Torah according to the method of preparation, which once again we see this in Vayikra in chapter 2, verses 1 to 10. First of all, a simple flour mixture. Chalot, unleavened cakes. Rekikim, these are unleavened wafers. Machavat, this is fried, naturally, it's terminology for that. Marcheshet, which means cooked. When a person is obligated to bring a sacrifice for one of a number of specific sins, in the event that he cannot afford a more expensive sacrifice, he can bring a meal offering over there. That's very much, we see this in chapter 5 of Vayikra on verses 1 to 13. Now, the meal offering brought by a sota, a woman suspected of an affair, we're going to see that. That very much is featured in Parshat Naso, which is the longest Torah portion in the Bible. And the meal offering brought by Kohen, who begins his service in the Bet HaMikdash. This, I think we see in Parshat Tzav in chapter 6, verse 13 of Vayikra. The daily meal offering brought by the Kohen Gadol in the morning and afternoon. And then also the chalot, which is brought together with a korban todah, a thanksgiving offering, which you see, I think, also in Parshat Tzav, in chapter 7, verses 12 to 14. And the loaves brought by a Nazirite who has completed his period of Nizirut. Once again, this is featured in Parshat Naso. Now we can also see what's the meal offerings brought by the community. What does that include over here? So he illustrates this Rav Adin Sign cells. Minchat HaOmer, this is the first thing. The meal offering brought on Pesach, celebrating the new harvest. I think this is featured in Parshat Emor. Also the Shtei HaLechem, the 2 loaves brought on Shavuot, celebrating the new wheat harvest. Once again, this is in Parshat Emor, I believe, in chapter 23 of Vayikra. Lechem hapanim. These are the 12 loaves placed on the table in the Bet HaMikdash on a weekly basis, very much featured in chapter 24, verses 5 to 8. Now, it's interesting, we're going to see that this Masechet itself devotes a significant space to, let's say, conversation of a number of laws that have no direct connection with korbanot sacrifices. But since they are mentioned in the Mishnayot, they are going to be discussed in a lengthy way over here. Thus, let's say the major discussion in the Gemara of such topics such as tzitzit, tefillin, and mezuzah are going to be discovered here. And although these topics are mentioned in other tractates as well, we know that Masechet Menachot is, let's say, the main makor, the main source of information when rulings on these matters appear in halachic works. So that's just a nice introduction. Let's say something about today's page number 2 over here, with regards to thinking inappropriate thoughts about a meal offering over here. Okay, so as we have seen in introduction, which we just spoke about, we spoke about comments over here in Masechet Menachot, a fistful of flour. This was taken from most of the meal offerings that were brought in the temple and was placed on the altar. The first Mishnah teaches that in most cases, if this was done, let's say, shelo lishma, with improper intentions, the meal offering remains a valid sacrifice, although it is not credited to the owner of the offering, and he will have to bring a replacement for it. Now, the great commentator, Rashi, is going to explain that when the Mishnah says that Kometz was taken with improper intentions, it means that at the time that he took the fistful of flour, the Kohen, he stated his incorrect intention regarding the Kometz. The great Rabbi, the Rambam, however, is going to, let's say, indicate, signal over here, that even an inappropriate thought would be enough to affect the status of the Korban. At the same time, in Masechet Zvachim, obviously we saw in Daf 2, that's page bet, Amud bet, it's clear that when bringing an animal sacrifice, it is only if the Kohen has a wrong intention that there will be a problem. If he does not have any specific thoughts, the Korban will not be affected. That's what we learned about, and I remember recording that with us. Now, our Gemara over here does not offer any source for the requirement that the meal offering be brought with appropriate intent. The great commentator, the Tosafot, is going to weigh in and suggest that the Mishnah here relies on, let's say, the Klalim, the rules, that were taught regarding animal sacrifices in Masechet Zvachim. Obviously, we have to go back, I think, see page number 4 there, where it based on the passages about a Korban Shlamim, a peace offering, given the connection that the Torah makes among all sacrifices, as we see in, I think, Parshat Tzav in chapter 7, verse 37. Since there's a commentaries point out that although there is reason to suggest that there's like a huge difference between animal sacrifices, so let's say we're changing a sacrifice from an olah, burnt offering, to a shlamim, a peace offering, is going to involve a transformation from one level of holiness to another, and from one type of atonement to another. While all menachot are largely the same, nevertheless the Torah does distinguish between different menachot in the way they are prepared and gives them, let's say, different names over here, which we very much saw in the introduction to this tractate. So it's really, really action-packed over here. And it's very, very exciting to record over, the insights that are coming out. It's a special achievement to start a new tractate, to do a siyum also on the same day, and that should be the joy revolving around people's life. What are we going to be learning about today? Which topics we're going to be learning about? What we're going to be grappling with today? That's very, very exciting. We're coming to Menachot. It's full of learnings, important halachot, and so on and so forth. Just give us a sneak preview. What are we going to concentrate, friends, on this week? Obviously, we started off today talking about the meal offerings, whose service is performed with the wrong intention. That's just a good summary by Rob Mendon. Mendel Weinbach of the ohr.eu website over here. We're going to learn about the dissenting position of Rabbi Shimon and challenges to it. I think that will be as the daf goes on. Sacrifices whose purpose is to qualify one for entering the sanctuary. That's going to be an interesting topic. Another topic we're going to grapple on this week is the wrong person or wrong position, which can disqualify a mincha sacrifice. And another question or topic we're going to learn about is why the sinner's mincha, let's say, is so bare. That's the reasons given. Left-handed service in a mincha offering. Can we do that? Can it be done left-handed? Does it have to be right-handed? We're going to learn all about the efforts of the sage Avimi to regain lost knowledge. That's going to be a very exciting topic, which is going to grapple in the daily minchat chabitin of the Kohen Gadol. We spoke about the terminology of chabitin beforehand. Eating sacrificial meat in the heichal, and which sacred vessels sanctify their contents. So a lot of excitement, obviously, as we are coming in over here. A lot of notes, which I very much recommend everyone to look at. And, it's just amazing just to go inside this new tractate. Personally, for me, I've not learned this tractate before, so it's very, very interesting. Just a few other insights that we see just for a couple of minutes with regards to different phrases we're going to see in today's page inside the Gemara. We learn Machavat L'Shum Marcheshet. What is that? A pan meal offering for the sake of a deep pan meal offering. Let's say the pan used for a pan meal offering obviously was shallow, had a minimal amount of oil which was added to the flour, which I think would render the meal offering relatively hard. And let's say they make a contrast over here. The pan used for a deep pan meal offering was deeper, as obviously the indication for this was by its name. And there was a significant amount of oil added to the flour, which obviously rendered the meal offering soft in of itself. Now, I think commentators actually point out that the pan was entirely flat surface with no rim, whereas the deep pan had a surrounding rim. So that was a difference over there. We're going to learn about a zav in today's page also, but we also speak about a comet also, who removes the handful. So he gives another insight, Rav Adam insights outside. The fact that a meal offering is disqualified through improper intent is obviously derived from the Jewish law of slaughtered offerings, either by the Torah's comparison of a meal offering to a sin offering and a guilt offering, or by the more general comparison of all offerings to peace offerings. Obviously, Tosfot is going to talk about that. And the great rabbis teach that the 4 sacrificial rites performed with a handful of a meal offering, which we looked at before, parallel the 4 rites performed with the blood of a slaughtered offering, which is very exciting. We spoke about that at the beginning. Obviously, the removal of the handful is equivalent to the slaughter of an offering. The placement of the handful in a service vessel parallels the collection of the blood in a vessel. They are both conveyed to the altar, and the burning of the handful on the altar corresponds to the presentation of the blood upon the altar. I think we'll also see this on page 13 we saw in the Masechet Zvachim, which we learned about 3.5 months ago, approximately. Now, I think accordingly, improper intent does not disqualify a meal offering before the removal of the handful, just as it does not disqualify an animal offering before its slaughter. So that the Tosfot, I think in Zvachim on page 13, is very, very much going to speak about it. And very, very exciting, friends. Just everyone, welcome to the community. If you are new over here, don't forget to join at the moment, as we're going to have insights every single day. Very exciting. Friends, we've already been recording Daf Yomi videos here for a staggering, maybe 3.5 plus years at the moment, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I can't recommend to everyone enough to please, follow us every day. Watch over the previous videos that we've recorded. We've got a lot of fantastic, phenomenal content over here of great Torah contents and so on and so forth. And very, very exciting to start a new tractate. Mazal tov to everyone that took part inside the Siyum that has been learning this tractate, the previous tractate of Zvachim. And maybe we grow together, we can learn together like a community, and so on and so forth. And just enjoy. And thanks very much for watching, and wishing you all a fantastic day. Thanks, and have a great day. Thank you.